everyone. Thank you for having me. Always happy to come to Korea. As we're talking about Web3, I want to first of all make the notion that it's already here. We're talking about the metaverse, we're talking about Web3, we're talking about all the exciting new things that are going to happen in our world. And I want to take you through a short journey of why I think it's already here. I think it's we're all expecting very big changes in our lives, in the way we do business, in the way we interact, in the way we interact with businesses, with our friends, with our communities. And I think to a large extent, this change has already started taking place. When I started my way in the crypto ecosystem, at the time it was just Bitcoin, there weren't many people in the community at the time. And the most important notion to many of them was a new and different financial system. But I think that the way crypto is going in general, and the way the blockchain is able to change our lives is expanding into everything. And we just start the journey and discuss a few points during the way. So in general, Web3 is basically the manifestation of the metaverse, right? Like Web2 was the manifestation of the internet expanding and taking a larger, bigger, more important part of our lives on an everyday basis. That will be the same with Web3 and Metaverse. And it's taking a bigger part because there's becoming different kinds of reality, right? We have the real, the physical, what I hold in my hand, what I actually drink, and there are the existing parts of the virtual, right? There's the virtual simulating the real. Let's say if we have a 3D model of a building, or we have a contract that is imitating the real world in the metaverse. And we have whatever is virtual by nature. It was created in virtual life, which I find much more intriguing because it would expand the borders of what is possible and what is not possible. Structures, physical structures, interactions, creatures, AI at some point when it becomes something a bit more real. So in the metaverse or Web3, there are a few fundamental items. Environment, people, objects, if you can call them objects, institutions, society, economy, production, civilization, and governance. That's kind of a general notion of what's included there. So with regards to environment, I think it's extremely interesting. There's the commercial environment, which I think all of us are participating in the changes there on a daily basis. We all consume products, we all use e-commerce all the time, every day. So I think we can agree that in the commercial part of the environment, we're already in Web3 to a certain extent. Maybe you're not, wearing your VR set and going shopping virtually, physically, but you are using it all the time. With regards to social interaction, I think we've made a lot of distance into Web3. People are interacting even within their VR sets. You can meet your friends. Meta, ex-Facebook, is trying to make a lot of important moves in that direction, in having actual social interactions in the metaverse, and they're counting on the fact that they'll be able to provide a good enough experience. And the natural environment, which again, I'm guessing many of you have played games like World of Warcraft or EVE Online or Second Life. So we've seen many demonstrations of such existing natural environment, which basically is part of Web3. With regards to people, so we have the real people, just simulated into Web3 environment. And we have the more important ones, the way I see it, the virtual natives. So what used to be bots in games, or chatbots or support chatbots, will evolve into something that we constantly interact with in a much better and more inclusive way. There will be a time when you're unable to say if you're speaking with a person or an AI person in the metaverse. But I think we've absolutely started feeling that coming towards us. Even today, if you're chatting in a support chat with many platforms, it's hard for you to understand when are you moving from the automated support system to the actual real person behind the scenes. And that's only going to evolve more and more. Objects. Again, as many others in these slides, there will be the real simulated, because the virtual world will first of all include digital manifestations of real items. So it's going to be mentioned here in most of the slides, but I think it's less interesting. I think the virtual natives in most are going to be more interesting. And I think we already interact. We see objects, we see NFTs, we see game assets, magical swords, whatever else that you have in the games. And there will be a combination of those in the metaverse, because, as said before, some things are just able to have the evolution process only because of the lesser boundaries of the metaverse. So, for example, like DRM, digital rights, contracts, you'll be able to create different types of contracts because there are different sets of rules. I think institutions is one of the more interesting topics. The government sees already a lot of difficulties with crypto because of the effects on the financial systems, and partly because of the fact that it's very difficult to create rules and regulations around something which at the end thrives on decentralization. Decentralization stands somewhat in contrast with government, and governments find it very difficult to absorb, to regulate, to allow less regulation. And I think that will be a constant friction point as the metaverse becomes more and more expanding. I think that in our generation, it's the first time in history where companies hold more information about people than governments. If you look at it, the largest government in the world doesn't have as much data on people as Google does, or Facebook. So there will be a lot of friction around these points. With regards to communities, we experience it on a daily basis. We are, in this sense, we're already part of the metaverse. We have a huge number of communities living online, existing online, fulfilling us on our everyday lives. And again, this will only expand once you're able to experience these relationships with less intermediate ways, using your VR, exchanging objects, whatever you guys prefer. Looking at society, again, touching the point of the law itself, there are different types of laws for different types of worlds, and there will be laws that will be derived from what we have in the physical world in the metaverse. But this move has already started with a regulation trying to adapt to what happens. For example, what happens if I stole somebody's digital asset? Let's say it was within a game and I stole somebody's artifact. There was a very, very interesting story over a decade ago in an online game called EVE Online. I don't know if you know the game. It used to be the largest MMOG at the time, and there was a super interesting story. Basically, there are two factions there. The traders and the pirates, and two rival fractions of pirates. One of them infiltrated the other one over a period of 9 months and convinced the leader of that tribe to take the entire fleet of everything is done within the game. Take the entire fleet, fly to a distant place where the guys who infiltrated the organization had an ambush and destroyed all of his ships. And since even in that game you were able to use the game currency to pay for the subscription, the damage could be translated to something around $500,000. And that was within the game. So people within the game rules, within the game laws, created a real-world damage of $500,000 to a person. And again, these things are mostly not yet understood by law enforcement, by regulators. So there's still a lot of road in front of us to proceed to a place where we all feel safe in the virtual world as well. With regards to social skills, again, there are net ethics. They exist since the net existed. I think it's something that we've done, we've come a long way. As all of the other items, still a long way to go, but we're absolutely in the process. Economy, me being in crypto for such a long time, I think is definitely something which I'm more interested in. Economy, financial systems. Right now, I think that we have a multiple currency ecosystem at the time. I think that unfortunately, it seems like we've brought with us as humans all the problems. Fear, greed have all come with us. And I think that greed is the most problematic one in trading systems especially. I'm guessing many of you had some experiences with trading all kinds of coins, joining all kinds of projects, and seeing how you can be manipulated in many of them. With regards to productions, again, I think it's going to be very, very interesting, and we're just starting our ways there. But how are you manufacturing? How do you sell products? For example, NFTs. If you're producing an NFT, your cost of production is basically zero. So you can produce as much as you like. How do you create the pricing system? Is it just free market? Do you create a cost plus structure? It's very interesting to see how it's evolving. And on top of that, how do you manage the means of production? At some point, computing power becomes an issue. And then at the end of the day, we're all bound to a cloud. There is no cloud. Cloud is just somebody else's computer, right? How do you manage decentralized storage? How do you manage anything decentralized that still has to uphold certain SLAs? Civilization, I think, as a whole is also a great challenge, which we just started our way into it, but we're absolutely there in many terms. Language, even here, I'm being simultaneously translated. I think today there are software pieces that are doing that rather well, so we'll be able to participate in online life in the metaverse, regardless of what language we speak. And what binds us is the internet or the Web3 or the metaverse culture, which again, today there's a huge part of meme culture, especially, I see it with my kids, they keep answering my questions with memes over WhatsApp. And again, with regards to customs, net ethics, which are becoming more and more global. So the way I'm behaving online with someone here in Korea will be very much similar to the way I behave online with everyone else, despite the huge cultural differences. Going back to government and governance, how do you govern decentralized organizations? Do you practice self-regulation? How do you work around conflicts? How do you create a system with less conflicts? if it's decentralized, if it's less bound by government, you're able to create laws. Code is law. We've seen multiple times in the crypto ecosystem by now where code was law, but then just because the system wasn't decentralized, they were able to say, oh, wait a minute, we didn't like what happened here, we're reversing everything. It happened in 2016 in Ethereum, creating the fork between Ethereum Classic and Ethereum. It recently happened in Binance Chain. They didn't like what happened, so they just reversed it. And this is something which is completely the opposite of decentralization. Completely the opposite of code is law, which is mentioned very times as one of the principles of the crypto ecosystem. I think that one of the more important points here is presented here. I don't think that there's a clear past, present, and future. I don't think there's a clear line between, an offline world, an online world, and the Web3 world, or between the current internet and the metaverse. I think it will be a gradual transition, or a gradient transition between the time and our lives are just online. I don't think any of us can, or at least will enjoy surviving a full day without being connected to anything. I don't know if any of you have tried it recently, but being a full day with zero connectivity is affecting all of what you're doing. You can't catch a cab, you can't order food, you can't communicate with your family, you can't communicate with work. Very difficult to do anything unless you're on a meditation retreat or something like that. It's not something that you're able to do as an activity for a long period of time. And I think that it really depends where we are on the scale between the past and the future, between regular online lives and between the full experience of the metaverse and Web3. Really depends on which of the sections that previously I mentioned. I think in some we've made a long way. I think in some we're just in the beginning. But I think we're absolutely within the realms of Web3 already. And I think that one of the most important things that now need to happen is to properly work on the infrastructure. After I sold Simplex about a year and a half ago, I think that one of the main reasons we started working on Simplex in the beginning was the huge barrier, the huge difficulty in buying crypto at the time. We started the company in 2013. At the time, it was practically impossible to buy Bitcoin. You had to wire transfer the money to someone you don't know. He would send you the Bitcoin. Bitcoin then was, $40, something like that. But still, it was very problematic. I think that today, one of the reasons I joined Locust Chain as one of their advisors, infrastructure is a huge issue. How do you support decentralization? How do you support the expansion of computing resources to support the Web3 activity? And I think that some of the things that are being worked on and developed on by Locust Chain are hugely impactful to this ability to advance, the ability to create stronger, more extendable infrastructure that is able to support such a huge activity. Because clearly, if we're moving from supporting a website that can support millions of concurrent users, you can probably imagine that supporting the same number of concurrent users with a clear 3D structure, clear video feed, sensory feedback will require a lot more. And as we grow with the interaction itself, you would want to know that your interaction is safe, right? You wouldn't want your haptic suit while you're in VR hurting you just because someone hacked it. You wouldn't want to be frozen in place because there's not enough supporting bandwidth. You wouldn't want your entire online life lost because there's insufficient backup. And all of these things will be taken care of by this infrastructure, by this growing infrastructure, by this growing effort of the community to create a better infrastructure. Thank you very much.